use hearings. The first item on the agenda is the patch, SUR 2024-7360, and I'll entertain a motion to open the land use hearing for that.
Mr. Chair, I move that we open a public hearing for the patch special use by review SUR 2024-7360.
Motion and second.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Turn it over to you, Jennifer.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, commissioners. I will be presenting the patch SUR. I will apologize in advance. I'm presenting for Kelsey Lanham, one of our staff planners. She was the case manager for this. She unexpectedly couldn't be here today, so I'm going to present, so I will do my best, but I will certainly refer any specific questions to the applicants who are the experts on the request. This is case SUR 2024-7360. It is a special use by review. So the subject site is located on the south side of Highway 86. It's just about 110 acres in size, and it is zoned ag. The request is a special use by review for the category on the land use table is general amusement or entertainment facility, and we'll get into the details of what all the applicants are proposing at the site. So the applicants would like to host a variety of events at the site, including such activities as what they're known for, which is their pumpkin patch in the fall, but also other activities throughout the year, including Easter activities, summer nights, movie events, a Christmas light drive-through event, weddings, and other such events that may come up that would be appropriate at this outdoor venue. There are both existing structures on the site and some proposed structures. About 75 part-time employees work at the site with 3 to 4 full-time employees, and the days and hours of operation vary per the event. Obviously, time of year dictates that, and then the type of event for whether it's appropriate to be in the morning or in the evening. So there's not a specific set of days or hours. It does vary by event. So a little bit of background, the patch, or the pumpkin patch piece of the patch, has been operating since 2017. It was previously at a different location, but in the last year or so has moved to the location on Highway 86. And the patch was previously permitted through temporary use permits, which works for the pumpkin patch, but because those are limited in duration to 60 days within a calendar year, in order to have other types of events and other seasonal events, the applicants are before you to request a special use by review, which would allow for those things all year round. Here's a zoning map to show the site. It's the site indicated with a red X there on the south side of Highway 86, west of County Road 33. And an aerial photo of the site. You all may have seen the entrance, the patch, and there is a very large and adorable cow. Remind me of his name. Walter, that's right. And so you can't miss it when you're driving by. This diagram shows a portion of the SUR exhibit. And I know on the screen it can be a little bit difficult to see, but if you, the diagram on the left side, the yellow boundary shows the entire site, and then we have a zoomed in version, so you can see that most of the activities are in that northern third or so of the site closest to Highway 86. There is a chart that outlines all of the different buildings and their sizes and their locations, but that is probably more than we want to go through specifically here in this forum. Same diagram, essentially, that's sort of outlining the Christmas light drive path so that you can see how they've thought through that and how that would go through the site a little bit further south as well for the Christmas light portion. So a timeline for the site, this project has been going on for a while, and I will thank the applicants for their patience as we worked through various review cycles. I know they had a couple of staff changes as well, but we're happy to get them before you here today. Their pre-app started back in the summer of 2022. They did have a community meeting. And then most recently in January of this year is when we really got going on their current submittal. They did go through 2 review cycles, and the notice requirements from the zoning regulations were met. This slide illustrates all of the different agencies that were a part of the review. As I mentioned, a few of them worked with us and the applicants for quite a while to get to the point we are today, where all issues primarily have been addressed and satisfied, including working closely with both the Office of Emergency Management and with CDOT in particular there for Highway 86. At the time of the community meeting, 5 residents didn't attend that meeting. Those folks were opposed to the project, and various concerns were noted, including those listed: traffic, noise in particular, number of visitors and things like that. One public comment has been received, but it was really asking more about the temporary use permit and how that process works. So this proposal was heard before the Planning Commission recently, and they recommended approval with conditions on a 5-3 vote. Some of the concerns that they noted were traffic, the number of activities or events, and fencing with the adjacent property. As part of the Planning Commission, they recommended 3 additional conditions. One that limits the events to 4 events: Easter, Summer Nights, the Patch, which is the fall pumpkin event, and then the Christmas light event. They also requested a traffic study to be provided within 60 days. That does differ pretty significantly from what staff had received and worked with CDOT for, and so I will get into that request as well. And then the Planning Commission made a recommendation of a field fencing to be installed to mitigate any of the public interacting with adjacent properties' livestock, and I believe that the applicant can address that one further as well. So a summary of the review criteria for a special use by review, and then a full analysis is provided in the staff report that's in your packet. But from Elbert County Zoning Regulations, Article 3, review criteria A is whether the use is in harmony and compatible with the surrounding area, and so that's probably the biggest question for the board today. Again, a lot of these uses are very ag-centric, but it's certainly somewhat commercial in nature. Letter B, whether there's an undue burden on infrastructure. Letter C, whether the project unduly increases traffic or creates a burden on the road system. Letter D, air, odor, water, noise, or light pollution. E, sanitation requirements, and F, whether the project is adequately landscaped, buffered, and screened. And just to add a little bit more information to these, for sanitation requirements, the applicants have worked with Elbert County Public Health and would have portable facilities on site and would get the proper permitting through that department. The SUR exhibit does include landscaping, but I would offer that but not necessarily screening, as the events do vary by season, and that how it's visible is primarily from Highway 86. Whether or not, letter G, whether or not the proposal is detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of Elbert County, and H, any supplemental standards, and there are not any supplemental standards in the regulations for this type of special use. So a few considerations for your decision making on this request: the surrounding properties and their zoning. And on that zoning map, as you recall, there was, and we can go back to that, a variety of different zonings. There is some ag zoning, there's also a PUD, there's also some residential zonings. So there's a variety of uses in the general area. So certainly compatibility it is a consideration for you all. The specificity of the activities, that was something that sort of came up with the Planning Commission. The applicants will certainly address their vision to you all, but they have identified a number of potential activities, and this type of approval could include all of those, or the board could choose conditions or restrictions on those uses. I will add in that particular item that the fall pumpkin patch event is the most visited, that it attracts the most folks. And so the thought process between the applicants and discussions with staff of bringing this forward to you all as an SUR is, while that particular fall pumpkin activity can be granted or allowed through a temporary use permit, and again, it is the most intense in terms of visitors, because all of the other events are somewhat less, it made sense to propose the SUR before you all. And so again, the applicants can certainly give some additional details, but it's not expected that the other events throughout the year would have the same number of visitors as the fall pumpkin, the pumpkin patch does. So the others would be more limited in nature. Considerations, the SUR exhibit itself, we do have a recommended condition of approval to just ensure that that meets all the requirements before it's recorded. And another consideration, as mentioned, is that the patch has been operating in Elbert County since 2017. It is a well-received operation that folks in the county do seem to enjoy. They have a lot of visitors. Again, the applicant can provide some specifics on there. And so it is a family activity that is located right here in the county so that folks don't have to leave. And some of the initial concerns, again, I alluded to that we worked out were some traffic concerns with CDOT and with the Sheriff's Office and with the Office of Emergency Management. And again, through a lot of discussion and coordination with the applicants and with staff and with those agencies, those have been addressed at this time. The CDOT is requesting a traffic study to be provided by the applicants within 3 years. And the thought, a little bit of the thought behind that is that gives time to understand, to establish some numbers so that there's something to evaluate that on. CDOT didn't feel, and I'm speaking a little bit out of turn for them, but my understanding in speaking with CDOT was that they didn't feel that they had a lot to base anything on until they had some more hard numbers from this actual operation, and then they would like to evaluate that traffic study at that time and see if any improvements were needed. So potential conditions of approval for the board to consider, one, that the applicants would obtain any necessary building permits for structures that are on site now or that were to be added in the future. Number two, that the applicants, and this came from the building department, that the applicants re-permit any existing structures on the property that were previously permitted as residential structures, that they went through that they would need to go through the building department and re-permit those as commercial structures. This is the item I was referring to, that the applicant shall submit a traffic study within 3 years to CDOT and the county for review and potentially determinations of any improvements that are required at that time. Number four is that the SUR exhibit would be revised to ensure compliance with Elbert County standards. I don't recall that that is anything extremely significant. I believe it is just making sure that all of the right notations are on there and all of the proper signature blocks. So staff would work with the applicants to review the final version of the exhibit before it was printed on Mylar and recorded. And then the other conditions are your standard conditions, that the public notice signs are removed, that the exhibit has to be recorded within 180 days, and that any conditions of approval are met and that fees are paid. The applicant is here to answer your questions and to speak to you all. Staff is certainly available to answer any questions as well. And that was certainly a high-level overview. If we can provide any additional information, please just let staff or the applicant know.
Okay, thank you. So the applicant's present today. If you don't mind coming up to the podium. Just anything you want to add to what's been said here today?
Yeah, so again, my name is Dustin Smith. My wife Kathy and I own the patch. This started back in 2017. That was about the time, or shortly after the time, this is not going to seem related, but Obamacare was talking about 1/6 of the U.S. economy was healthcare. My day job is actually, I'm a sales manager for a health information company. So somebody like University of Colorado Health System uses our service about 50,000 times a week to answer questions to help take better care of the community, right? Why are we working so hard to make sure that this kid with leukemia can go back home, right? Why are we making sure grandma and grandpa can get the heart stents that they need to go back home? Well, we felt that we had the opportunity to provide an activity that gave families a chance to connect and do something worthwhile so that you're not just going home and watching TV. You can actually go make memories with your family, your friends, memories that will last the rest of your lifetime. I can still remember my grandpa doing his double hand wave as we pulled out from their farm in Arkansas. That's why we do what we do, okay? We want to provide an activity. We had dirt. My buddy Vince had tractor knowledge. My buddy Kenny had a work ethic. All their families, their kids, my buddy Hooker had some, experience working at a pumpkin patch when he was in college with a good friend of ours. His wife did marketing. And these four families came together and said, what would happen if we took a shot? Can we do this? Can we build it? Yes, we can, right? Bob the Builder. So that was the goal. And then as customers started coming, it was, when are you going to do Easter? When are you going to do something in the summer for us? When are you going to do day camps? We saw people getting engaged at our place. We've come here, for 5 years in high school. Can we get engaged at your place? Can you help us with this proposal? Can we get married? Can we, when are you going to do Christmas? These are things the community is asking us to do. And so that was part of the move from our home on 35 acres up off County Road 21, down a private road, to all of that to a place that's much more accessible. So we are moving in the directions that the county and our customers are asking us to move. When we started this, the county had said, have fun, right? You don't need any permitting necessary. Great. As we grew, we had a child have a seizure in a corn crib, right? So we had to call 911, fire department had to come out. We understand why there's permitting needed. We understand that fire department needs to know they have access and how that access works before there's an accident or before it's needed, so that it's a smoother operation. Just like in healthcare, you have plans in place to know how to treat the patient who walks in with chest pain, right? It's the same type of thing here. We understand that. We've worked with the county throughout the years. One thing I'll say, there has been turnover here. One of the turnover things that I think is confusing with the building department saying your buildings need permitted for commercial. There were other comments in there that said, oh, you need to be permitted for electrical commercial use. That's been done. That was inspected by Rick Young. Rick Young, similar type meeting in one of the downstairs conference rooms. We need to come out and look at your place for commercial observation. Okay, Rick Young came, he looked at it, he said, you guys were good. He looked at the electrical, went back and looked at the state electrical inspection. It was all done to commercial standards. I don't know why it's not notated in the system, and when we say the buildings, we're talking sheds, but they're, again, everything was done how they were supposed to be done. So we don't want there to be confusion. We want to have open communication between us and the county. Our communication with CDOT has been ongoing. We did a full-blown traffic study. Let me rephrase. The CDOT requested a traffic letter memo, which was a traffic study light. We worked with an engineering firm to have that done. It was done with what we thought our projections were going to be. We've actually not come close to those projections in the 2 years that we've been operating here. We did update projections for all of our events. We did send those to CDOT. That was part of this review process, and that's all part of why they suggested you don't need to do a traffic study again. It should be done 3 years from now once we have some actual data, as Jennifer mentioned. Some of the fencing and concerns like that, there is fencing in place. We do have employees who are monitoring the parking lot, helping park cars. Some of the location of where our parking is versus some of the property lines, it's actually south of that. And then, when we look at, do we do all the events that we're anticipating? Well, if you look at hosting a wedding, and that's likely going to be Friday, Saturday evenings, right? Summer nights is Friday, Saturday evenings. Like, it would be one or the other. A wedding is going to be nowhere near the traffic that a summer nights event would be. And then similar things with like a day camp. Like, even if there's 100 kids at the day camp, that's going to be far less traffic than, our pumpkin patch and corn maze would be. So just those things are, again, things that the community is asking us to do. So I'll pause there for questions or for comments. So.
Yeah, we'll probably call you back up for that portion, but now I've got to turn it over to the public, see if there's any public comments, and I appreciate what you've said here.
Sure.
Thank you. Are there any public comments? Need your name and your address, sir, for the record.
I'm Nathan McRae, and my address is 855 South Elbert Street, and I have worked for them for 4 years. I just wanted to state how they have helped me grow, and they hired me on when I was out of high school, and they wanted me to learn how to be able to be a good worker and promote health and help people and okay, sorry. So I want to start off with Mr. Dusty. He taught me that to be a good worker, it means you got to work hard and you got to see people and what they're doing and how to fix it. And he taught me a good lesson. It was, if you're standing around not doing anything, you're doing something wrong. And I take that in my job that I work at now. I work at Dairy Queen, and I see a lot of new incoming employees who are young and who do the bare minimum to just get by. And I've seen a lot of them, they love to get on their phone, and they can't sit there and just work all day. They need to be on their phone, they need a distraction. I personally don't like that. I was taught by Mr. Dusty and Scott that that's not okay. If you are in the workforce, you are working, they are paying you to be there. You have to be in working for them, giving them 110%. And Scott has taught me that you need to look at people and see patterns that they are doing and how that can help you. Because if you see a problem, you need to be able to fix that problem. But you need to be able to see that problem before it happens. And so Scott taught me to watch people, how they react, and if a problem is about to occur, you need to be able to pounce on that and fix it before it happens. That way it helps people and helps people to stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Hi.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sienna Snively, and my address is 800 Avena Drive. And I'm also just going to touch on a little bit of what I've learned by working at the Patch. I'm going into my 4th year of working there, and I can truly say it is the best opportunity I've ever had. Working at the Patch has just brought me so much, and, when I went in, I was a scared little freshman who, didn't know how to talk to people, didn't know what I was doing. And now I have the confidence to stand up here and talk in front of all of you. So that just speaks on a little bit of what I've learned from working there. So I work in concessions where we sell our food, and I'm normally the person at the register. And my first couple of weeks there, Miss Kathy taught me that the most important thing was my attitude. My attitude can change everything about a room that I'm in. And I've really taken that with me everywhere I go in life. A smile goes a really long way. And when families are coming in, you're making the memories for them. What we do as employees is so important to their experience there. And if you've ever talked to a family that's gone to the Patch, you know that they've had a good experience there. During our Easter event, there was a little girl who came twice. And on the second day she came, she drew a ton of pictures and brought them to various employees because she had the most amazing time. And she brought me a picture, and it was a picture of a gingerbread man, because she said she could not wait for us to do our Christmas event because her 2 favorite holidays were Easter and Christmas. And that is just something I think about all the time, and it's something I remember all the time because of how sweet that was. And it really just showed how much we touch everyone's life that comes into the patch and how much we affect our workplace. And I just think that's so important. It truly is such an amazing place to be. They always say it's like the Disneyland of Colorado, and that's my favorite thing because it's just so much fun. And truly, I have never had something in my life that affects me more, and I've never looked forward to something so much as I look forward to every season that I know I'm going to be able to work. The community there and the employees there, they're really just a family, and it's such an amazing place to be. And I hope that you guys all get the opportunity one day to come out and see all of that and maybe bring your families, because it truly is so much fun, and they'll have such a great time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name's Aaron DeBellis. I live here in Elizabeth. I've been here in Colorado since 1973. Small background, served in the military for 18 years. Prior to going into the military, I didn't know what I was doing. I had a mommy that took care of me. I didn't know how to work. I didn't know how to get a job. When I did get a job when I was 16 years old, didn't know what I was doing. Trial by fire. So I went in the military to learn those skills, if you will. They don't coincide with civilian life. I see this in Colorado exponentially. Kids that are in high school needing and wanting to learn that work ethic and can't because they're stymied by whatever the case is. Company laws not allowing younger kids to work because it's a liability. How are those kids going to get the skills needed to become productive members of society and earn that money, pay their taxes, and help that community grow and establish themselves, establish their families? They can't. They cannot. So their only choices are to go get a job, if they can, at a fast food restaurant and learn one particular set of skills. That's not very good. Here at the Patch, they are hiring kids at, 14 years old. A 14-year-old child learning the work ethics needed, learning how to operate different types of power tools, how a wrench works. You know how many kids don't know how a wrench works? Because they play video games, because that's all they can do. They have people like Scott teaching them. Everything's a teachable moment for these children. Teach them why this has happened, how to fix it, and how to mitigate, how to communicate effectively with the customers, with the clients, and be able to stand their ground. It's a very unique opportunity that the Patch is providing for the kids, the adults as well, but mostly for the kids, so they can have those skills when they become adults and be better, more productive members of society. I, for one, I volunteer a lot of my time there, and it's just because it's enjoyable. My entire family is there, and if I didn't believe in the Patch, we wouldn't be there, and I wouldn't be here right now. So I urge you to consider approving this request and just see how well and how beautiful it grows. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? All right, this section we'll turn over to the Board of Commissioners for questions and discussions. Commissioner Schroeder, do you have any questions or comments, sir?
I appreciate the public comment and the opportunity. I think I saw in there 75 part-time employees. That's great for our community, and really appreciate that. And teaching work ethic is a great thing. I guess my biggest question, do we know exactly what needs to be done on the required permits from the building department? I know there was issues when the buildings were moved, but are those still outstanding, or is that complete?
I believe they were completed when Rick Young came on site and did his inspection, but I know that Rick's no longer here. So our impression was that those had been satisfied.
But we have no record of that.
So the building department provided some general comments and those conditions of approval that I had included. I can certainly work directly with the building official to, I don't know how much research was done, let me say that. I don't know how much research was done into previous permits that were pulled or anything like that. And so I think they provided some general language to ensure that if any other permits are needed, that they would be required and would be pulled.
Well, I can understand for anything new that's the structure, but I'm not understanding the re-permitting from residential to commercial. Why that is a requirement, because now it's considered commercial with the SUR?
I suppose so, because the public is invited to be in some of the structures. That's not a comment I have seen previously on other similar projects, and so I can't speak to exactly what that means. And I think there were, as Dusty mentioned, a few different folks had been involved in these reviews over the last year or so. So anything that the board felt was appropriate could certainly be added as a condition. It doesn't need a condition to say that appropriate permits will be pulled. That's already a requirement. So that is in place as well.
I do know that we did submit the structured engineer drawings for those buildings as well.
Okay, so on my paper here, as part of the staff report, with different conditions of approval, the applicant shall re-permit all existing structures in the property, excluding the residence, from residential to commercial. What would that mean to you?
So the biggest thing that comes to mind when you're talking commercial, which part of this is on recommendation from different departments of the county not to zone commercial, but to do the SUR. So the biggest thing that comes to mind is ADA requirements for the patch. If the county requires full-blown ADA compliance, meaning 4-foot or 6-foot walking pathways or sidewalks to every different activity, that's extremely burdensome and not necessarily, it hasn't been necessary. We've actually done, we've had a handful of customers come out every year in wheelchairs. They are able to get along fine. We're actually in conversations now with the University of Colorado Children's Hospital on hosting a Kids with Cancer Day. We've actually had some people in that community, we've asked, like, could we do a certain type of day here? And they're like, it's not, like, you don't want to go down that path. There's going to be requirements on you. And so, for instance, one of the things, or one of the reasons that Kara with the fire department had said, we don't want you to zone commercial, is because it's going to require fire flow in all of your areas. We don't want to impose that. We don't feel it's necessary. So go to the SUR route, because it's going to give us flexibility in what those requirements are. So again, when I say that we've worked with the county, we've worked with each of the departments for years on this project to see what fits, what doesn't fit, how do we make it, how do we go forward with it. So that would be like an example of a concern with zoning everything commercial. Commercial has very strict regulations that you have to meet. The SUR allows for that flexibility.
That's all I have at this time.
Commissioner Buck?
Yeah, I have a couple quick questions. The very first page of the staff summary says proposed year-round events include but are not limited to. So,
Would you like me to kind of explain some of that?
well, not yet, because then it lists a number of events. A lot of events. And I don't know if we have this specificity on some of these events. So for example, weddings. I didn't know if I saw hours of operation for a wedding, whether that included live bands at a wedding. One of the concerns, or a couple of the concerns, is noise and light pollution from the site. So I think to include any of these events, they have to be specified and addressed individually to determine if we want to allow that particular event, rather than just saying, hey, we're gonna go with all of these different events, but not limited to just these events, and we haven't really spelled out each of those events, what that includes, what the hours are, and I just didn't see that, and I think it actually says that it's unclear in the packet. It is unclear if enough details have been provided for decision makers to adequately review proposed events for the long-term use of the site. So that is that is a comment from staff directly to us saying, hey, they haven't been provided enough information for us to make a decision. So I'll start with that, and if you want to go ahead and add your comment, that's fine.
Sure. So we have included hours of operation. It's generally going to be opening at around 10 a.m. If it's a day camp, it's going to be before then at 8.
So are the hours of operation specified for each of these events? Because they're going to
Yes.
change. A wedding's going to be different.
Sure.
Versus a day camp versus a summer night or a movie night.
Correct. So they are spelled out for each of the events. We are never open past 11 p.m. That's, again, follows with Colorado noise ordinance. In terms of noise in general, again, when she mentions the Patch Fall Festival, we do have music that plays. We have an internal sound system that doubles as our PA system. So, again, that's been in operation for 2 years. We have not received any noise complaints with the music that's played. Even in terms of, whether it's a live music or the speaker music, it's all very similar. The other thing I'd point out is it's a 110-acre property, so it's a quarter mile across. It's hard to understand the scope of the property until you get on it. Man, it would have to be loud to have noise complaints from the neighbors. And the other thing is we've talked to Sandy, our neighbor to the west. We've met the people to the south. We encourage the conversation. So even that sound system, not only can we have different zones with different volumes, we can actually turn down zone or speakers, individually. So we do have some general parameters where, we're open during these times. We're not planning on doing overnight things. We're not, we're within the scope of what we understand the noise ordinance to be. The light pollution, we've laid out where some of those lights are. We've been open this summer for summer nights. Even we've talked to Sandy, like, hey, has the lighting and the music and the movie and the sound been an issue? She's like, it has not been an issue. They go to bed at 8:30. It's not bothered them at all. We did take into consideration the direction lights are pointed. Obviously, we're not pointing lights at anyone else's property. We're very cognizant of that. So I don't know if that addresses your concerns, but
A little bit, and I want to backtrack to the very beginning. I want to let you know that I appreciate your business. I loved having your staff come in. I've actually been to the event and loved it. I have some of those memories that you're talking about with my granddaughter. So it's a nice business. I appreciate you wanting to expand it, but there is the concerns that I'm mentioning. I just wanted to throw that out there, that I'm not just, not just throwing some things out there for you, but I do appreciate it. But I think there's some definite information in here that I think is lacking in the packet to move forward with all of these events, and some of these questions that I'm bringing up.
the other item, a similar event is the Friday Night Market in Elizabeth that does have live music. And so even when you look at that, we are much more secluded than that stage with residents around it than we are. So there's examples of things like what we're talking about doing. And at this point, we're not talking about hosting only live music events. Like it would all be in conjunction with something else that we're doing, that again, we're doing today. So.
Well, one of the reasons I brought that up, but there were some community meeting concerns. I think there were 5 people that attended, and it sounded like all 5 of them had a concern. Some of it probably being noise, some of it being traffic, some of it being lighting. would be my guess that those were some of the concerns. But,
Can I point out that none of those 5 people are here today? Because I think over the last 2 years that we've been operating there, we've shown that those initial concerns are no longer, I'm not gonna say they're not a concern at all, but they weren't as concerned strong enough for them to come voice those concerns today.
or they have a job, and they're at work.
They could have publicly submitted them, they could have privately submitted them.
They
you
could
know.
have. You're
And not only did we do the SUR, 3 years ago, we've done the additional community notifications on each of the temporary use permits since then. And I don't believe since that initial concern 2 years ago, before they even saw us in operation, I don't think we've received any comments back from the public. And I think there's been at least 3 notifications that have gone out for both the pumpkin patch and the summer nights.
How much, how many days out of the year are you operating now?
Depending on the year, so when we first started, when we were doing field trips, it was probably close to 75-ish. No, wait, that'd been in September, October. So that probably would have been 45 to 50. Here, we're anticipating being open about 90.
So you're going from 45 or 50 days to 90 days?
Correct.
Interesting. It sounded like it was, based on all of these events, it sounded like 365, and you're open quite a bit. But let me see what other questions I had for you. What would the summer nights entail? What would that be? Kind of like the one in Elizabeth a little bit?
Similar. So what we do for summer nights, so we got something we call Foam on the Farm because it gets hot outside. So that's kind of a fun area where kids can go play in foam, cool off a little bit. We've built a glow-in-the-dark putt-putt golf. We've got glow-in-the-dark frisbee, disc golf. Our daughter comes out and does some line dance and swing dance lessons from 6 to 8, where kids can come together and have fun dancing. And then we actually did the movie nights starting at 8:30 to a little after 10, depending on the length of the movie. And again, that was in a 20-foot screen, 2 large speakers for sound. And again, like, you can't hear that sound once you reach the edges of the property. And going south, I mean, you're never going to hear it down there. But so that's, along with the other activities that we have, some concessions, our jumping pillows, our low ropes course, our paintball shooting gallery, those types of things.
Yeah. So activities, to me, are different than events. There's a difference. The events are, the date and time, and then the activities is what you do when you get there. So I'm trying to focus on the events right now for this, because you guys got, 30 different activities or 50 different activities, and I appreciate that. That makes it a great day for everybody.
So the summer nights was Friday and Saturday evening from 5 to 11.
Summer nights, 5 to 11.
Correct.
Movie nights, 8 to 10, 10:30.
They're within that window.
Yeah. And then weddings, what were you doing on the weddings?
So if we do a wedding, it would be similar. I mean, obviously weddings could start earlier because some people want those to start at 4. I just went to one in Pine, Colorado for my nephew. It was at 4:30, was the wedding ceremony. Dinner was right after, and then it ended at 9. So again, we're not anticipating, everything would end by 11. Again, going with Colorado noise ordinance. And I don't think it would really go to 11. I think it would probably shut down at 10. But again, we're saying 11 just to be on the safe side.
And then what were some of the, but not limited to? Do you have some other events in mind that you are considering adding to this list?
The one that comes to mind that we get asked a lot for is a paintball and airsoft playing field on the weekend. So why it says, included but not limited to, and I'll throw another one out there. So people love trains. One of our kids actually is on the spectrum. He knows everything about trains. When we were at family vacation in California, Jackson called Grant. He was like, "Hey, where are you at?" He's like, "Oh, we're at this city." He was like, "Oh, are you seeing that train?" Like that, like he knew it off the top of his head. Trains are $500,000 to $1 million. It's not on the plan because I don't foresee in the next 5 to 10 years being able to afford a train. However, someone just created a new train based off of a John Deere tractor. That's $150,000. So we might be able to add a train. It's not on the list. So that's where you get into is all the activities that we could conceive of. Here, no, I mean, everything we're doing is like in this scope, and we understand that with an SUR, we will need to come in periodically and give some updates, or we may need to do that. So that's the thought behind it. We know that we would have to give some updates. I assume that would be part of that process. Does that make?
That makes sense. Traffic was something else that it sounds like CDOT weighed in on it a little bit. 3 years is an extended time, to be sure, before any traffic study needs to be submitted.
Can I speak a little bit to what we do with traffic and who is all? Because, again, when we say we work with CDOT, so CDOT, and to give you some idea of scale, at our other location, we were operating those 6 weeks at about 25,000 visitors per year. The new location has been about 12 or 13,000. There's different reasons for that. But that's what the initial traffic memo and study was for, was based on the 25,000 visitors in those 6 week period. We did everything down to hours. We had data time tickets that year due to COVID. How we work with CDOT is we did update projections, realistic projections that we gave them. They trust and ask us to work with Colorado Highway Patrol. So we work with a gentleman named Captain Rushing out of Lyman, who's responsible for special events in this part of the state. We've given him the traffic estimates. He has been on site at our property. He works closely with the Elbert County Sheriff's Office, including Sheriff Norton, who has, I'll say, delegated us to Captain Ken Bettis of the Sheriff's Posse. He and usually another posse member are on site at our place. They keep a close eye on traffic in and out. So they've seen it in action. And so between those three entities, we've developed a traffic mitigation plan. And so we work with Captain Rushing to see what mitigation is required. So if you've ever been there in the fall, you've noticed that we have those towable light signs both to the east and the west of the property that say there's a turn lane, special event, the patch, slow down, second right. That's part of the traffic mitigation plan that Highway Patrol has recommended to CDOT, and CDOT trusts them with that recommendation. So the other kind of more anecdotal evidence, so when we first were looking at this and we pinged Captain Rushing and said, hey, we expect 1,500 vehicles. Okay, I didn't put a day, I just thought he knew that. So his response to Captain Bettis was 1,500 per hour. And Captain Bettis was like, hey, you need to clarify this with Captain Rushing. I saw him at the Kiowa Rodeo. And Captain Rushing's response to him was, 1,500 a day? That's a blip on the radar. We're not concerned about that. The towables are more than adequate for that. And nothing we've done in the last 2 years has come close to approaching that. So that's why when you say 3 years seems like a long time, we're nowhere close to hitting a threshold of visitors. But if we are, Captain Bettis is on site, he works with Captain Rushing, and we will develop a traffic mitigation plan to address that, and that's why CDOT's comfortable with waiting the 3 years for the traffic study.
Okay, I was just curious. I'd never seen that before, being put out like that for that long of a period of time, for sure.
So it's not that we have no communication with CDOT over the next 3 years. It's actually very documented in our permit, the steps that we're required to take and who we're required to work with on mitigation for that.
Thanks. Two more real quick. Fencing. One of the concerns from the Planning Commission was field fencing to be installed. What type of fencing is around the perimeter of your property?
I believe it's 5-wire barbed wire for cattle. The previous owner kept cattle all along the property. I do know some people to the south and southwest also run cattle. The people directly at the north end of the property to the west have horses. I can't remember if they have mules, but something to that effect. And that's where, that's where we would say, look, there are some areas where the parking is next to the property line. And that's, again, barbed wire fencing. We have employees there. They felt it might be necessary to include field fencing, a tighter knit fence, than just the barbed wire in case a kid happened to run and want to run, not through the fence, but cross the fence into a neighbor's property. I can tell you in the 7 years we've done this, whether it was on our 35-acre property that again had barbed wire largely around it, we have not seen that and experienced that.
Okay. And then the last one that I have, and you might be able to answer this, or Jennifer, the Planning Commission wanted to limit the events. And can either one of you speak to why they wanted to limit the events, and in particular to the events that they chose?
Dusty's welcome to add to it. What I recall from the hearing was that they were, I believe, doing some math during the hearing and calculating annual visitors. I'm not sure that that's, anyway,
So
I
based
believe
on,
that that's
based
what they
on
were doing.
traffic, is what you're saying. So it was based on traffic?
Potentially, I don't know exactly, and I believe that those, basically they picked one from each season and felt more comfortable with that limitation. I think the question is, if those are the most intensive, whether limiting the less intensive ones actually has any true land use impact.
Okay. I was just curious if there were some other reasons, and if that was it, yeah?
Honest to goodness, I'm not sure. I think I don't want to say they were
I don't recall.
overwhelmed, but it was, but yeah, so for us to do a wedding in the evening on a Saturday night means we're not doing summer nights. As she pointed out, we expect considerably more people at a summer night event than we would, a wedding event. A day camp that they didn't approve or wanted, based on traffic, again, you're talking maybe 30 vehicles over the 2 hours. So I'm not sure.
Okay. I was just curious. Thank you. That's all I had at the moment.
All right, thank you. So I got some comments, not questions. I'll say that I've been going there since you opened with my family in 2017. I've attended a lot of public events, and I don't think I've ever been to one that was so clean. And you employ these teenagers out there and these young adults, kudos to you. And I don't know, as long as I've been involved in this county, I've never heard of a complaint. So when we got this packet, I went, talked with the sheriff's office because I was concerned about traffic on 86. And so I know you got the big blinking signs up there, that kind of thing. So there's not been any reports or any accident reports filed in the 2 years that you've been out there on 86. I don't see it being a problem, and I've been there multiple times since you opened up the new one. With that being said, kudos to you for what you're doing, you and your family. I really appreciate the job y'all do. Where else are you going to go in this county and take your family and your kids for this kind of thing? There's nowhere else in this county to go like that, so kudos to you for that. I don't have any questions or other than the comments. So, with that being said, I think everybody's had their opportunity here. Thank you. You can have a seat if you like, sir.
Okay.
So now is time for a BOCC decision. Is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Chair, before we do that, I'd like
Okay.
to clarify exactly what conditions of approval we're looking at. I assume the draft is somewhere in here, but do you have it quicker than what I can find it, Jennifer?
A draft resolution.
Draft resolution?
Yes, sir. It includes the 7 recommended conditions. We can certainly add or take off any as well.
It's on the back here. You don't need it.
I can also pull it up.
And Commissioners, before you vote, I recommend that you ask the applicant if they agree with the conditions proposed.
Are you aware of the conditions proposed? This is the first question I'll ask you.
Planning Commission. I'm aware of the 3 from Planning Commission, so.
Is it okay if I share this? Absolutely. Sir, we'll take a look at that. Folks, I apologize at our board meeting this morning, this AC went on a fritz and was, so I apologize for being so hot in here.
Yeah, I have a comment for the board. Is there any concern about the lighting? Do we want to put a condition on for any night or dark sky lighting, if that's not on there? Rather than just blowing it up and, you know, attracting a visual blight at night, or doing some kind of restriction on lighting at all?
I mean, my comment to that is they've been doing this since 2017, and there's never been any kind of complaint. They run a well-oiled machine there, and I don't see any reason to.
I concur.
That's just my opinion. Sir?
I concur, and an SUR can be revisited up to annually. So if there is a concern, we could always address it at that time.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many night events were you having? The patch, as far as I knew, was during the day. And it sounds like you have a day camp as well.
Well, the day camp would be new. That requires obviously several levels of approval through early childhood development that we've not done yet, but that wouldn't impact the nighttime stuff. Yeah, this summer we have operated until 11 p.m. and again, we have not received any complaints whatsoever. The lighting is, to give you some idea, we do have some LED lights. I will say our jumping pillows, because of the type of activity it is lit up fairly brightly. They're all pointed, those lights are all north-south. You don't see them through the trees. There is, she mentioned screening. There is significant screening between 86 and our property due to some natural trees that were planted there several years ago. All the other lighting is much more pathway mood lighting. Most of the ones in the parking to the south are motion detected on-off solar, so they're not super bright, that type of thing. Obviously, Christmas lights would be a little different, but then they're Christmas lights, so they're not super bright. I don't know if this will help. There is, I will say, a light directly to the east of us, across from Kubota somewhere, that looks like the moon is coming up at all times. If it's foggy out, it looks...
That's what I was trying to avoid, was
So-
something like that.
Yeah, so that is, I don't like that light either. We're,
Good.
again, like, you're welcome to come out and look at the property. Fire has said, look, like, we need to make sure paths are lit, and again, they didn't have any issues with it. So as much as I can say this, like, and this is my opinion, but we really try to be good neighbors. We're cognizant of, where we live and how people live out here. We're not trying to shine spotlights on people. Like, it just, like I said, we've done this for several years, and like, we put that same care and attention into all the events that we do. And it doesn't do anybody any good to have neighbors yelling at you. I mean, and I joked with Marissa, who was out with the health department a couple weeks ago. I care more about our porta potties than she does. Like, if we don't have the right number of porta potties, like, people aren't going to come back. She's got her metrics, I've got totally different metrics, and mine are much more stringent. So I guess to some extent we're asking the county to put some faith in us. I know that's a different thing because this travels with the property, but again, it's an annual thing. So I think the revisiting is what gives you guys comfort to know that that's there. Of these 7 conditions, I think the only thing I would have and again, I am under the impression that we have permitted the buildings to the commercial standards. I'm under the impression that's been done. Everything else on this list is, again, things that we do. So.
Okay. When you're through with that, I'll take that back, put them on stack here. Thank you. Appreciate you.
So, Commissioner Buck, in answer to part of your question, is in the applicant's narrative on the different things. They have different seasons, activities, and what times they expect there. So I think with what they're doing is pretty minimal as far as that. I am concerned about putting an extra burden on the applicant having to re-permit if it had already been done. Is there a way for us to reword that condition to be able to check and see if that's been done without it being required?
Sure, I think the first condition probably handles it, where it just says that, right, the applicant must obtain all required permits from Elbert County Building Department, and so if anything that entails or doesn't entail, that probably is inclusive of number 2 to a certain extent without having that additional language. I can take that one out if you all prefer.
I think, to me, that makes it more clear of what the requirement is.
Any other questions or comments, sir?
I'm done. Maybe.
Move forward.
I'm ready to move.
All right, you ready to move forward? All right, is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve the patch special use by review SUR 2024-7360 with the conditions of approval number 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 as listed in our packet.
Okay, there is a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Motion to close the public hearing. Let me find my numbers here.
Mr. Chair, I'll move we close the public hearing on the patch special use by review SUR 2024-7360.
Thank you. All right. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're going to take a 5-minute recess, if you don't mind, for just a minute, and we'll come right back. Thank you. All right, folks, it's 2:08 p.m., and we will call this meeting back to order. Next item on the agenda is RZ 2024-3550 for rezoning. I'll give you a minute, Jennifer, to get situated.
Mr. Danny Kublaner is going to present this item, sir.
Oh, okay.
He's ready to go.
Let's roll.
All right. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Danny Klebanner, and I'm Land Use Planner here with Elbert County. Today, I will be presenting the Trishul Rezone application RZ 2024-3550. Little project summary here. So the site location is 35501 Cheyenne Trail. The site size is 35 acres. It is currently zoned A, agriculture. The applicant here is Matt Prowant, representing the owners, and the request is a rezone from agriculture to residential agriculture RA. Here's a look at the county, and there's a little blue circle there, kind of just to the west of Elizabeth. That's the location of this property. I'll zoom in here, but the property's less than 2 miles northwest of Elizabeth. Here's a zoning map of the property.
Danny, may I interrupt for you for just one second? We never officially opened this as a land use hearing.
Totally spaced it. Sorry. All right. Motion to open this land hearing, RZ 2024-3550. Is there a motion to open?
Go ahead, Dennis.
Mr. Chair, I move that we open Trishul Rezone public hearing RZ 2024-3550.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. You can now proceed. Thank you, Commissioner Schroeder.
Thank you, Commissioner Schroeder. I did notice that too. I should have stopped it. So again, this is Trishul Rezone RZ 2024-3550. The site is located at 35501 Cheyenne Trail, a 35-acre parcel that is zoned agriculture. The applicant is Matt Prowant, and the request is a rezone from agriculture to residential agriculture. Here's a look at the zoning map of the property. Just there to the east, you can see the Pawnee Hills subdivision. Other surrounding zoning includes agriculture, so it's either A, agriculture, or that RA1, approximately 5-acre lot in the Pawnee Hills subdivision. Other nearby subdivisions include Rock Haven, Fleming, and Bayou Gulch. Here's an aerial map looking at the property. It's that one with the outline and the little yellow star. Again, this property is zoned agriculture and has historically been ranch lands with no structures on the property. There is no floodplain on the property or wetlands. The property will be accessed by Cheyenne Trail, which is an unpaved road with a local classification in Elbert County. Here's a closer look. Not a lot going on this property. There to the east are the Pawnee Hills subdivision and residences. Little background here, the property will be accessed via Cheyenne Trail. Currently, the road ends at that property, and that is its access. It goes there. That Cheyenne Trail would be extended. Again, no wetlands or floodplain. Little bit on the project timeline here. So there was a pre-application for this back in August of 2023, a community meeting January 23rd of 2024. It went on a couple of different referrals, first in August of 24, then from September through October in 24, and then finally when the applicant received the go-ahead from Division of Water Resources, a final referral in April of 2025. This went before the Planning Commission June 17th of 2025, and here we are today, July 23rd of 2025. All notice requirements have been met per Elbert County zoning regulations, with a quarter-mile mailing, sign posting, and posting in Ranchland News. These were the agencies who were contacted during the referral period, and all comments have been addressed. During the community meeting, there were 8 residents, and during the Planning Commission meeting, there were 2 public comments. Generally, in opposition, we've received comments. There was a letter in opposition that cited traffic, potential interference with a bridle easement in Pawnee Hills, decrease in property values, and water use. Again, the concerns at the community meeting were largely the same about increased traffic and water, in general increase in development. The additional public comment we received after the rezoning public community meeting was included in the packet, so you have all correspondence there. Right, a little bit about the Planning Commission hearing. The Planning Commission did vote 7-1 in favor of recommending approval, with 1 commissioner voting against recommending approval because she felt the packet was incomplete and the application therefore should be deemed incomplete and not recommended for approval. The conditions by the Planning Commission were included in your staff report, although they were not included in the resolution. Their potential recommended conditions included updating the packet and application materials. The applicant did do that with a new third-party authorization form and a new rezoning application form re-signed, a couple of updates to the rezoning exhibit. And then the other conditions included from the Planning Commission were a horse and pedestrian crossing signage at the it'd be the western edge of Pawnee Hills there where the Cheyenne Trail would continue. So adding some signage there about pedestrian and horse crossing. Another condition they recommended was to use a lower aquifer than required by the Division of Water Resources. They wanted the applicant to move into the Arapahoe aquifer and bypass the Upper Dawson, Lower Dawson, and Denver aquifers. So generally, the review criteria for Elbert County commissioners to consider any application for a rezone are these listed in Article 3C4. Here's a brief summary of them. A, whether it is generally consistent with the goals of the Elbert County Comprehensive Plan. This proposed rezoning is consistent with our comprehensive plan. One of our main residential goals, residential development goal 1, is that residential development should cover all on and off-site roads and utilities required to meet the associated demands of that development. This does that. B, whether the proposed rezoning is compatible with surrounding land uses. This is one for you to consider. The proposed rezone is compatible, we believe, with surrounding land uses. The area is a mix of larger agricultural lots and residential properties, along with some even smaller lot residential around 5 acres. This proposed rezone would allow for lot standards at a 10-acre minimum. And the purpose of the residential agriculture context is to promote low to medium density residential development while preserving working agricultural lands. Non-commercial farming, open space, ranching, and agriculturally related uses are allowed as accessory to a primary residence. C, whether the proposed rezoning would adversely impact the provision of public services. The proposed rezoning will not adversely impact public services. Elizabeth Fire and Elbert County OEM had no objections to the application. And finally, D, E, and F here. First is whether the proposed rezoning would adversely impact the environment. This proposed rezoning will not adversely impact the environment. Building permit review and septic review for on-site wastewater treatment systems with public health can identify any site-specific environmental factors upon the development of the property. The Division of Water Resources reviewed the proposed water supply and deemed it adequate. E, whether the proposed rezoning would create an unreasonable traffic congestion or burden the existing road system without improvements. The proposed rezone will not create unreasonable traffic. The applicant was required to submit a traffic letter. Elbert County Public Works has no objections to the traffic plan or the private road that will extend from Cheyenne Trail. Public Works will inspect the road and it must meet Elbert County standards prior to any driveway permits being issued. Finally, F, whether the proposed rezoning will not otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the present or future inhabitants of Elbert County. This proposed rezone will not be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the present or future inhabitants of Elbert County and conforms well with the agricultural and residential mix in the area. So a few considerations for a decision. One is compatibility. Again, surrounding zoning is either A, agriculture with about 35-acre lots, or RA1, residential agriculture 1 with 5-acre lots. Another is whether all referral agency comments have been addressed. Here they have been. Main hang-up with this application was water and the application moving through the water adjudication process, which took about an additional year. So a few potential conditions for approval, the applicant shall remove signs within 2 weeks of conclusion of all notified meetings. General condition here from our zoning regulations. Second, it shall not become effective until all fees are paid, conditions of approval are met, and the exhibit is recorded. And third, recordation of all appropriate documents, including the exhibit, is to occur within 180 days of any Board of County Commissioner approval. The additional conditions were listed in the staff report, but not listed on the draft resolution, and those include number 4, pedestrian and horse crossing signage at the junction of the bridle path with Cheyenne Trail. 5, road and bridge shall inspect and improve the extension of Cheyenne Trail before any driveway permits are issued. And 6, any well shall bypass the lower Dawson aquifer and enter the Arapahoe aquifer or a deeper aquifer. So those were additional Planning Commission recommended conditions. The applicant is also here to share additional details about the project and to answer any questions, and I'm also available to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, sir. So the applicant, you have any comments or anything you'd like to add?
Hello, good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Matt Prowett, the applicant, and I am representing actually the homeowners or the property owners, hopefully to be homeowners. I'm actually a real estate broker by profession. I'm not necessarily a land developer, but this was definitely a fun experience and learned a lot. When my owners came to me, they were they're two families that really wanted to just have property next to each other and, raise their families in the country and, live adjacent to each other. And as we got through the process looking for options, there just really weren't suitable opportunities to buy two parcels together that were vacant. So it really became a distinct challenge for us, and came across this property, and through our due diligence, it became an opportunity that we felt could pass through the criteria to meet to this point here 2 years later. So here we are. Be happy to answer any questions you have. But I would, like your thoughts. We did have a request to go to the Arapahoe Aquifer. When we did our adjudication process, of course, we hired a water attorney, and it was a multi-month process there with the water courts, and with the water usage that we determined, and I've got a letter copy there if I could share with you. Between the three parcels, it's only 2.55 acre feet of water per year for the three sites. Which
You've got that letter, and you want to share it with our attorney there, and he can take a look at it real quick.
That letter is in the packet also. Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
So with that not even 3 acre feet of water, that 2.5 acre feet of water, that really encompasses 4 large animals per lot, and then 4,000 square feet of irrigation, along with traditional household usage only. So what we would like is to have the commissioners consider just actually going by the argumentation plan, which is to basically drill those wells into the Upper Dawson instead of the Arapahoe. We felt like that was pretty excessive. But I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I think I'll just make a comment. I think the concern about the aquifers is so many people are in that Upper Dawson. That's trying to restrict that as much.
I do understand, and I was a little honestly surprised that that's what the state came back with. Obviously, we feel that they understand water more than I do, so we were willing to say okay on our end. But
it's not mainly the people in Elbert County get penalized for it, in my opinion, solely my opinion. But I mean, you got Douglas County and Arapahoe County is in the Dawson, and they're pulling a lot of water out of it annually. So that's just my opinion.
Okay.
All right, give me just, sir, did you take a look at that? I don't have that in my packet for some reason.
Yes, I did look at the letter. I'm not going to label it as an exhibit and submit it because I understand it's already in your packets and it would be duplicative. I did want to see what it said, however. So is it fair to say that you are questioning one of the conditions of approval, that being?
In a sense, yes. We just felt like the Arapahoe is very, very deep. If there were a way to, come to a different conclusion than either the Arapahoe, even if the Upper Dawson isn't suitable.
The draft resolution we have does not include these, so these are just recommended from the Planning Commission, so it's not part of what is here. We would have to add those as a condition of approval, and I would be remiss to vote to remove someone's right to have the property that's been properly adjudicated. And so I think that, as far as I'm concerned, the three conditions that we have can stand at their own. We can talk about a couple of the other ones there and see how they are, but I would not put this condition on the applicant. As far as other questions, just to clarify, it looked like on the map that going through Cheyenne Trail was the only access to this property.
That's correct.
Okay. And then there was back and forth whether this was going to be a private road. Road and Bridge said they would take it as a county road if it met county standards. Where did we finally end up on where this was going to be?
From my recollection from the planning meeting is that because it would continue on the name Cheyenne Trail, just for the sake of confusion as to where does Cheyenne become private versus public, that Road and Bridge would take it on once we had it built to standards. It would just be a publicly maintained.
The other two, of course, the Road and Bridge will then inspect if they're going to do it for the driveway. And you have no problem with putting up the signage for the pedestrian horse crossing the bridle path?
Yeah, that's a nominal consideration, but we'd be happy to oblige to that.
I have no further questions.
Okay. Commissioner Buck?
Yeah, just real quick, was there a time in this application that you were considering doing one central well, and now you've decided not to do that, and you're doing 3 separate wells, correct?
So we, in a sense, the answer is yes. We actually had a pre-app meeting to do a higher dense project with 6 lots,
Okay.
6 5-acre lots, or 7, whatever the math really worked out. And we determined within that meeting that we would have to have a central well and septic. And that was where we decided that is not feasible.
Okay. So now it's just the three lots, and we can address that water issue that we talked about. The Colorado Division of Water Resources on page 444 of our packet does say that the water supply is adequate based on their determination, and that it is currently physically available to serve this subdivision based on current estimates and aquifer conditions. So I would, on a individual lots this size, I would be very hesitant to even put that condition on there as well. And I'm the first one to scream about the water and do all that, but I just can't see it happening for this particular application. I'm glad to see the other 2 conditions are, not outside of the ordinary. They're pretty easy conditions for you, and that's all I had.
All right, thank you. And I just I echo what these 2 gentlemen said. You're not pulling that much water. So
We were trying to be very respectful to the aquifer, in all truth. We didn't want to just shoot for the moon, so to speak. We were trying to be real thoughtful as to how much water we would extract.
Okay. Before we go any further, I got to find out, is there any public input for this here? Anybody speak publicly?
John Hill, Ranchland News in Lyman. I have covered meetings of the North Kiowa Bijou Groundwater Management District previously. Currently, I do not cover those meetings. I do cover meetings of the Upper Black Squirrel Creek Groundwater Management District. Both of those groundwater management districts have rules, and any well that's drilled in Elbert County has to be in compliance with those rules. So the location of the well would depend on which groundwater management district you would go to, but basically you can't approve, the well can't be approved without being in compliance with the rules of the groundwater management district.
Thank you, sir. All right, any further discussion by the board?
Well, I'd like some clarification on the groundwater management. I don't know enough about that process to make a determination.
Green, yep.
There we go, green. When I talked with Miss Iona, who's on that she's on that letter, you know, she stressed, what her stress was that you as commissioners have the power to make any determination that you want. And she obviously said, this is what we recommend based upon the augmentation plan. But of course, all well permits would have to be approved by the state at the Division of Water Resources. So my understanding is that they will be the ones who determine what we have to do to actually pull a well permit.
John, could you repeat that real quick? Sorry to make you get back up to the podium, but could you repeat that, please?
The attorney for the North Kiowa Bijou Groundwater Management District, I believe, is named Andy McLaren. I might be wrong on his last name. His first name is Andy. The attorney for the Upper Black Squirrel Creek Groundwater Management District, which is also in Elbert County, is Lisa Thompson. And either of those attorneys could answer your question.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion?
I didn't really have a question. You made a statement that they are the ones that have approval authority at this particular location. I guess I misunderstood what you were saying, I guess.
Groundwater management districts are created by the state of Colorado legislatively to manage all groundwater usage in the specific districts in the state of Colorado. Each management district has rules. Any well drilled in North Kiowa Bijou has to be in compliance with their rules.
Right. Thank you, sir.
So do we know if this application is in compliance with those rules?
Yes, it should be in compliance with the rules. The latest correspondence I had with Iowa was basically detailing the allocations from the Denver Basin, and the Denver Basin includes Upper and Lower Dawson, Denver, Arapahoe, and Laramie Fox Hills, and detailing the amount of water basically they have rights to, and the amount under Elbert County's 300-year water rule, which basically divides their 100-year water rule by 3 to address our allocation rules. And yes, they are in compliance.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, sir? All right, that being said, is there a motion on the table?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I will move to approve Trisha Rezone RZ 202435554 with our standard conditions of approval 1 through 3, and also Planning Commission recommended conditions of approval number 4 and 5.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. I entertain that we have 2 other items on the agenda. Both have been continued, I understand.
Yes, sir. Those have been noticed, and so it would be appropriate for the board to open them, and then we can continue them.
Okay.
Do you want to close that hearing?
Yes, absolutely. So I'll entertain a motion to close RZ 2024-3550.
Yeah, I'll make the motion to close the hearing, RZ 2024-3550, the Trisha Rezone.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, we will open up the Elbert County zoning and subdivision regulations. This time, is there a motion to open that?
Mr. Chair, I move we open public hearing to discuss updates on the Elbert County zoning and subdivision regulations.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, it was my understanding that at the board's wish to continue this item, so the next regular meeting of the BOCC would be on August 13th. This item could be continued until that time.
All right, do we need a motion to continue this to August 13th? Yes. Okay, is there a motion to continue this to 1 p.m. on August 13th?
Mr. Chair, I move we continue this meeting about the updates on the Elbert County zoning and subdivision regulations to August 13th at 1 p.m. in this location.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Now I need a motion to close the Elbert County zoning and subdivision regulations hearing.
I'll make a motion, we close the Elbert County zoning regulation hearing.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Now we need a motion for Coyote Ridge PUD 2024-0258.
I'll make a motion that we continue Coyote Ridge PUD 2024-0258. Is that going to be continued to August 13th as well?
We've got to open it first, so I need a motion to open the hearing. Sorry?
We need a motion to, or I make a motion to open the Coyote Ridge hearing PUD 2024-0258.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Now, is there a motion to continue Coyote Ridge PUD 2024-0258?
Is there a date preferable by staff?
Yes, sir. So the Planning Commission continued that item to August 19th, and so the 13th would not work. The applicant has requested that you all continue it to August 27th.
27th at 1 p.m.?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, need a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. We continue the Coyote Ridge PUD 2024-0258 to August 27th at 1 p.m.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Now we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Or sorry, wait, we got to have a motion to close. We'll get there one day. A motion to close Coyote Ridge PUD 2024-0258.
I'll make a motion that we close the hearing for Coyote Ridge PUD 2024-0258.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Now we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
2:39, we are adjourned. Thank you.